talking with them. When we walked in, it's 2 houses to the alley entrance. You can see from their garage to our back gate, which is just behind this garage here. Now, he didn't walk fast, but if they could see him from over there at this alleyway over here, at a house that they ended up raiding in October. So, and that guy told me some things that, he told me in the time it took him to drive the back way to Walmart at 11 in the morning on a Tuesday morning and get into a parking spot was all it took for my brother's death, because he watched my brother walk into the alley. And by the time he parked in Walmart's parking lot, he got a call that my brother was dead, that they had just shot Michael from someone who was at his house. And it's not the first account that I've had like that from people that I know that live around here still. He walks through the back gate over here, and he walks through here where this opens to the backyard. He saw them coming up the driveway, and he went in this back door. Okay? He came in here. If you take this off, it's riddled with bullet holes here. He was in here, in this area here. My son knows it. My son fixed this. When I saw it the day after, it was shattered all through here. There's a spot that comes through here that my son patched. It goes through that cupboard.
Open the door.
And look they shot him through the cupboard. They had to open the cupboard to shoot him.
No.
No, Dad?
Came through the door jam from outside.
And through there?
And through there, and through that lower hole.
Okay.
Oh, there's the bullet holes right there?
Yeah.
Right behind? Those
Yeah,
are them?
yep. There was 9 shots heard. There's a neighbor a house over that made a video recording because he was walking out the door to go to lunch with his brother, and they pushed him back in saying shots were fired. And he said he looked at his brother and he said, "Did you hear any firing? Did you hear any shots?" So he opens his phone to turn on his camera. And the next thing you know, all you hear is the 9 shots of the police. Now, if my brother had shot off a gun, as clear as those ones were, they would have heard something.
And they couldn't find anything outside.
And there was nothing.
Nothing out of the house.
Over here, you can see where they dug their bullet. They were looking for their bullet holes.
Chicken looks good.
This is where my brother's feet prints were. When they shot him in the chest, he kicked his way around the corner. The weapons weren't found anywhere near him. If he had a weapon, then he would have been near the body.
What weapon did they say that he had?
They said that there was a gun, a 9mm and a flare gun. If he had access to a 9mm, he wouldn't have had a flare gun. The flare gun he had for this boat that he has in the backyard, because my brother was a fisherman. And that's what he used to do, go out on the boats, and it was required by law to have a flare gun. There wasn't even anything in it. They're bright orange. They look like a giant toy gun. To me, that doesn't, they were looking to do some harm here, because he was annoying them. The night before he died, an officer that I spoke to a few days in a row had spoken to my dad and told him my brother was taking up too much of the city's resources. When would he return? But didn't put any emphasis on when he needed to be here. But he knew that my brother would be home alone the next day.
The day before.
The same Monday, the officer who didn't come to my brother's rescue most of his life had just gone to vacation in a lake in Arizona, so they knew he was gone. Now they knew I was in Ventura. If they had my number to contact me for 3 days, why didn't they not call me then if there was a problem? They wouldn't come to the front door 2 days earlier out of fear of agitating him. But when I was begging for them to take him to Hillmont as well as the neighbor, they refused to help him. Because I knew what was going on. I knew the medication they'd given him was wrong. I knew that they had released him early from a 72-hour hold. I knew that he was malnourished, and that affects your brain. And he was here alone, and that affects your mind when you have the condition my brother was living under. But you could have knocked him over with a feather. And he was calling for help because he was scared. And if he had a flare gun, he didn't have a flare in it, but maybe he thought it would scare somebody that he thought was coming for him, because that's what his mental illness did for him. And it was, could you imagine having to walk every day feeling like the world was coming for you or your family, that if you didn't die, they were gonna hurt your family? That's what my brother walked around with every day. And most days you couldn't see it because he hid it very well. But could you imagine what that fear would be like to be here alone and then you see the cops coming and you think maybe they're coming to get you now too? He watched a friend OD one year and he always felt like, because he was the last one seen with them, that they thought that he did something to him. And so that always plagued him too. That was one of his other things. But they knew, because the guy that used to look out for him would tell him, no, Mikey, that was just routine stuff. You were last to see with them. We just needed to know what you last knew. We never thought you hurt him. But that's not what my brother's mind would do to him. Unfortunately.
There's a video of the officers after he was shot.
No, there was video of the people in the front yard, because this was a house away. And you see officers in a car, but you hear the shots because it was from another house over. Because he was in here and they were in the courtyard, which they claimed they weren't.
Is it true that someone saw the officers high five?
So I'd have been told, yes. Like they had
Officers.
just won some game. But see, my brother made him look foolish when he was a teenager, and they didn't like that too much. When he got older and he didn't get in trouble anymore, they still harassed him when he would walk down the street. I mean, I had moved to Northside in my first apartment, and I hadn't quite got all my things out. And my brother rode my son's bike from here to there to bring me some personal female items I needed rapidly right then. And they pulled him over and had him on the sidewalk for 20 minutes, and he wasn't even on parole. And he explained to them, yes, this is my nephew's bike. I'm taking my sister these things she needs. They were girl items. And they still, because of his last name, and they've harassed my oldest a little bit too since my brother passed away. So I used to always worry about, because of our last name, what would happen, because my brother just was a kid doing stupid kid stuff that 50 years ago, it didn't go down like that. They didn't treat people like they treat him now. He was a teenager, trying to find his way. And at the point that he died, he just wanted to take care of his dad and to look after his nieces and nephew. His nephew and his niece. He was scared and alone, and it shouldn't happen like that. There shouldn't be bullet holes dug out of my dad's walls. When they spoke to him on the phone the night before, when I asked them for 2 days to take him back to Hillmont, that he needed to be seen again. And I couldn't get here. My car was not working at the time. And I wish I had just walked from Ventura here. If I could go back, and maybe he'd still be here. Because they called 3 days after he died for his reversal surgery for the bags that he lost some of his intestines 9 months earlier. He had 2 of them, and I guarantee you it was hot that day and he had his shirt off. And he didn't care who saw those things. He used to call himself 2 Bags Mahoney. He was Mikey 2 Bags. So he had a sense of humor about everything. And this was not right. He called them for help for 2 days, 3 days before he died, and they just wouldn't help him. That's the things that need to change. They called for Robert to get help. That needs to change. In November, my dad got ill, and we called for an ambulance for him. And what shows up is 4 cops from Oxnard PD telling him to sit down and put out a cigarette while 3 of them walked down the hall to search his house. We called for an ambulance. Why are they there? When I would call for help from my brother, when he'd be having episodes, and I called him down, I used to call him his downtime. I was afraid to call and have the police come because of how they would treat him. Because yeah, he had tattoos, because yeah, he had a reputation, and yeah, this house had a reputation. But for years in between that reputation shouldn't have stood. And these officers knew my brother. There was 2 of them out of the 3 that knew Michael, and they knew him well because they'd been here, and I know them by their faces. The younger white officer, I don't recall so much. But the other 2 I recall very well, and one of them was not a very nice one to my memory.
What can you tell us about the officers? And if you could name them.
Perez never liked Michael. You'll have to excuse me, I'm drawing a blank. That's the problem I have now because of my own post-traumatic stress stuff. Because I can't think what I'm trying to say.
I can turn this off. I'll turn this off.
Oh, you